Okay, guys, now we will continue our lecture about organizations. And as I said during part one, we will continue with NATO, and then we'll move to other organizations to share with you uh, more and to show you more precisely what's different types of organizations, uh, how they work, and how they are organized, and what they are showing from itself. Okay, NATO. So NATO was founded on April 4, 1949 in Washington by 12 founding members, including US, UK, France, and Canada. So the main question why it was founded. So the main reason is some contribution and assistance to Western Europe for their protection, and also for some contests with the Soviet Union on European land. Also, interesting fact that Turkey joined NATO in 15 years. And in your opinion, why Turkey joined NATO so fast? In If you take into account that it was poor country that wasn't enough developed, even by some measurements of World War II conditions. Як ви вважаєте, чому Туреччина була прийнята в НАТО в 50-х роках, коли вона взагалі була дуже відсталою країною? Та Дар'я, будь ласка.
Здається, через кількість населення, ні, вони дуже велика країна.
Ні, там інший фактор зіграв. Ну, з ким Туреччина межувала, ну, виходить, по узбережжю Чорного моря. Хто там був?
Азія,
Ну, Азія, так. Ну, як відносно Азія, Радянський
а не
Союз.
Європа.
А Радянський Союз, да, по Чорному морю, відповідно на схід, да, там сьогоднішній проходить кордон з Грузією, але на той з да, з Вірменією в тому числі, але на той момент it was a border between Turkey and the Soviet Union, and why uh, they allowed to join this alliance so fast. It also was some threats that has Turkey and Europe with Turkey. So the old ambitions of Russians was to occupy Istanbul and to get access to Bosphore. And also, the old Russian ambition is it was to control some land on Mediterranean Sea because it gives you some access, fast access to main European countries and also countries of Africa, and gives you fast routes for um, delivering purposes, also oil, yes, in some way, but these ambitions were famous before in oil era, and in that way they accepted participation of Turkey in NATO in so fast way, and even without satisfied development of this country, because threats were uh, bigger than some conditions of Turkey's economy. And so why I told it to you, I wanted to emphasize that every decision of taking new members, it's first of all political decision, and even our joining to European Union, that's all not just about some Copenhagen. Yes, markers. That's more about political decision and more about geopolitical choice. Also, another example, it's from European integration. It's Greece. That also was in some way poor country for other Western European countries, but it was taken into European economic community because it's like a loan, yes, так улиска of European civilization in some way. It's boundaried with ancient history and ancient Greece history, and all European countries connected and associate themselves with ancient history. So it was about geopolitical and civilization choice, then some economical development, and so on. But of course, if we in some way step away from our main topic, it's and some our ambition to join European Union. That's and do they accept us or not? It will first of all geopolitical and political decision. Okay. So what's the main feature of NATO and why they are so strong? It's Article 5, collective defense. So the parties agree that an armed attack against one shall be considered an attack against them all. But in NATO history, Article 5 has been invoked or activated only once. It happened on 12 September 2001 after terrorist attacks on the United States that occurred on September 11. But article invoked happened on September 12. It's one day later, leading to collective assistance. And in Afghanistan too, that's yes. Okay, so the main purpose of activating this article was a terrorist attack on a trading center in New York, but in some way for deactivating and for removing terrorists, group of terrorists that, in some assumption, was behind that tragedy. It located in Afghanistan, and for helping to uh, yes, to kill this group, it was Article 5 was activated. But it's a fun fact that activating of Article 5 doesn't mean direct intervention of member states into the conflict. For example, that also could be resolved in the way for ensuring casks, for example, yes, or some medical purposes purchases. And that's not in 100% means that countries will start some land forced companies for helping other members. And it's, the main issues and the main question if Russia will attack Baltic states or Poland or Slovenian Strip, does it mean that sorry, Suwalki Strip. Does it mean that NATO will invoke Article 5 and will help with Russian attack. Also the history of enlarging of NATO has long history, and even after collapse of the Soviet Union, some countries that belong to so-called Warsaw Pact or Warsaw Bloc, after declining this bloc and collapse of Soviet Union, some of these countries joined NATO, but overall, Warsaw Bloc, countries of Warsaw Bloc and countries of NATO, they were in some way rivals. Why? Because Warsaw Pact, it's a defense bloc. A defense bloc of communist countries under the parasol of the Soviet Union, and NATO. It's first of all a defense bloc of capitalist countries under the parasol of the United States. And some countries after Soviet collapse of Warsaw blocs like Poland, Czech Republic, Hungary joined NATO, and then in 2004, Baltic states also joined NATO. For today, total members around 32 countries, but another fun fact, Austria and Cyprus are not members of NATO. Тобто тут, ну, я ще повторю українською, важливо запам'ятати, що Кіпр і Австрія не є членами НАТО, тому що вони вважаються нейтральними країнами. Ну, Швейцарія, я зрозуміло. And Nordic shift Finland and Sweden. So a response to invasion when Russia invaded in Ukraine in February 2022, neutral nations decided neutrality was no longer safe, and countries that in some way also was a product of Cold War, like Finland. This country joined NATO on April 4, 2023, but during the Cold War, Finland wasn't part of NATO because it was some agreement with the Soviet Union for keeping Finland neutrality, because Finland is bordered neighbors with Soviet Union, and they also had the war in 1940. After this war, the Soviet Union annexed Karelia. It's the region that today belongs to Russia, but in the past it belonged to Finland, and ethnic groups like Karels, if I pronounce it correctly in English, they are part was part of Finland, and it was organic part of Finland because they also part of Ogrofin group, so-called, yes. Sweden. Sweden joined on March 7, 2024. That's also followed the same logic with Finland. So after the collapse, sorry, not after the collapse, but after invasion of Russia into Ukraine, they decided to enforce their military forces, enhance, yes, their military forces, and join NATO for, mm, for better cooperation. Uh, in some way, Russia oppose all this enlargement to the east. And also, if you remember before full-scale invasion into Ukraine, Putin reclaimed often some closed, yes, negotiation between Russia and the United States in 19th of 20th century, where they where United States was obligated to not enlarge NATO to the east, and like it's the first the first requirement of Russia was um, to stop presence of NATO in countries of former Warsaw Bloc. And today, the length of NATO's land border with Russia has roughly doubled because of Finland, and significantly changing the security map of all North Europe. Um, So, how does it exist and cooperate? First of all, it's the main body is North Atlantic Council. It's a decision-making body, and it allows one seat per member. Also, General Secretary is presented in NATO, and from since 2024, it's Mark Rutte who replaced Jens Stoltenberg. And maybe you remember that Jens Stoltenberg printed a memoir about their NATO policies, and he's like general secretary on this position. And in some way, it was under the scandal because he said that for a long time, he tried um, to adjust relationships between NATO and Russia. But as you can see, it wasn't possible, and even he recognizes, yes, in some way, limitation of NATO presence in Eastern Europe, but it's not happened because of war with Ukraine. Supreme Allied Commander Europe, it's another body of NATO, and always an American general is on this position. Headquarters based in Brussels, Belgium, but also some headquarters of other institutions and of other presenters, for example, of cyber resilience presented in Tallinn, and so on in other capitals. Also, we have other representatives. Yes. Uh, so under the Trump, NATO, it's uh, transmitted from uh, alliance that primarily sponsored by the US, and now they provided a model when every member should contribute equal sum of their GDP. And the purpose of Hague Summit that occurred in 2025, it's achieve 5% of budget spending of every member until 2035. Today, for today, it's around some countries contributes 5%, some countries contribute less than 5%, but for bettering infrastructure and cybersecurity resilience, countries should contribute more and more, and NATO's member understand it also before the threats from Russia. They also understand it clearly and try to achieve this goal even earlier. Okay, so some countries refuses to achieve this goal. For example, Spain and Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez openly refused the 5% goal, calling it unreasonable. And Spain argues for prioritizing social programs over military targets. Why it happened? You should understand that Spain, in some way, it's peninsula, Iberian Peninsula, and they uh, one of the farthest point of European Union, and in that way that not feel all threats for example, Baltic states or Poland it feels, and of course they oppressed with all. All for all calling yes to achieve spending goal in 5%. Under Donald Trump, the US held pressure allies to meet targets or risk losing protection, highlighting a deep eternal divide. So it's issue that exists also from his previous election, his first election, and today he tried to push on all member countries to achieve 5% goals. Um, okay, so today NATO also declared that Ukraine is on irreversible path to membership, but in some way, yes, it's a visible path today. And crucial is the 2025 summit decided that financial aid given to Ukraine will count toward each member nation's official defense spending targets. So some assistance to Ukraine is like part of NATO budget. That's in some way good for us, but in some ways you should understand that uh, achieving the goal for joining NATO, it's a far goal and might be possible after, in my opinion, Russian collapse. But in that way, do we need to join some alliances if Russia uh, finished their existence? But we'll see what happened further. It's not predictable. Okay, so strengths of NATO. Most powerful military alliances ever, deeply integrated common structure, and highly credible deterrent. And weaknesses, it's heavy dependence on US funding, as I said. That's the main the country who finance NATO is United States, and it will remain also for a long time. Political blockage from members like Hungary, Turkey. That's also some issues because, but with Hungary, it's not more relevant today after the elections. But Turkey, that's a country that also blocks some initiatives, also that concerns enlargement of NATO. For example, if Turkey for a long time not give a green light for Sweden joining because they have some problems in their relationships. And after resolving all issues, Sweden joined NATO. So Turkey revoked their bloc. Lack of an field exit strategy for Ukraine conflict. So I will reclaim one more time. NATO consists of different countries with different views on foreign policy, and of course, some countries opposed even a thought about Ukraine joining of Ukraine to NATO, and in that way, in my opinion, it make our possibility for joining NATO even more far than joining European Union. Okay, ASEAN, it's a union that was founded on August 8, 1967 by Indonesia, Malaysia, Philippines, Singapore, and Thailand, and was created during the Vietnam War to act as a shield against communist expansion and to resolve old regional quarrels like the confrontation. So yes, it's like an old regional conflict that was provoked by former colonies, but in some way, in cooperation of these countries, also was interested United States and other European countries. But overall, the main force that uh, push this country for cooperation was the United States by presenting of military forces of United States in this country, and also Vietnam War, where United States was engaged largely. That's some was gesture of preventing future conflicts, some assurances that these countries will not uh, part of some communist sympathies. For comparison, for better understanding, so ASEAN countries, if we take it together in ensemble, quite developed region. So you can see that nominal GDP is around $3.6 trillion dollars. For comparing, some countries like United States, China, Japan, and Germany are ahead, but I'll repeat, uh, in some way, this number that's also mm, also good and stunning. In ASEAN countries lives around 700 million people, and it majorly global economic engine. So I not remember if anyone presented about ASEAN, but they also developed some policies in the frame of the union, and they also developed some. Also issued some reports about their position and about their states. So you can read about the economy, about their cooperation in tourism broadly in their reports. So the ASEAN way, it's so-called quiet diplomacy. So based on non-interference in internal affairs and respect for sovereignty, often called sport sheet diplomacy for its informal style. So ASEAN is differ from European Union or from NATO. So that's not requires some deep integration into all these institutions and bodies of organization, and in some way it preserves a sovereignty in a full understanding for all countries, but also we should understand that this position limits some deep integration and some more to get in more fruits in economical realm. Also, ASEAN based on consensus model, so every state must agree while it prevents dramatic confrontations. It makes taking strong action against misbehaving members nearly impossible. So in some way, politics of these countries are quite similar, and even if on the first sides they are more into different different religions alignment, but anyway, these countries were developed for a long time in some way together, so they we can say that also keep some common policies. Um, okay, but okay, so also similar words about ASEAN. It's like um, so ASEAN, they created a free trade area in 1992 and an ASEAN Economic Community and in 2015, which aims to be a single market for goods, services, investment, and skilled labor. In some way, it's we have same treaties with Mercosur that yes, some of you presented today, and but that's also far away from integration like on the level of European Union, but in some way it's remain model for integration that's also possible. Okay, and with case South China, um, Uh, China claims almost the entire South China Sea through its so-called Nine Dash Line, and these claims overlap with the territories claimed by four ASEAN members: Brunei, Malaysia, Philippines, and Vietnam. ASEAN has been negotiating a code of conduct with China for more than 20 years, but progress was very slow because some ASEAN members like Cambodia and Laos are very close to China economically and block strong statement. And in June 2024, there were physical confrontation between China and Chinese and Filipino ships near the second yes, Thomas Hall, and Filipino sailors were injured. The kind of incident is exactly the type of crisis where ASEAN unity is tested that often found weak. Um, so yes, China remain important player, especially in Asia, not just in the world, but in Asia. In Asia, it's very broadly presented, and with some countries like Philippines, they have an old conflict, and um, mm, for negotiating some problems, you also should see on the conflicts that countries has between each other. And wait, sorry. Hmm, not in right way. Uh-huh. So about Myanmar crisis, that's another spark example of um, how organization, yes, could exist. In February 2021, Myanmar military overthrew the elected government and started a civil war with that killed, yes, thousands of people and displaced millions. So ASEAN agreed on a 5 points consensus, and in April 2021, it's calling for dialogue and end to the violence between all parties, but the Myanmar junta ignored the plan, and ASEAN has banned the Myanmar military leadership from attending its summits. Yet at the October 2024 ASEAN summit in Vientiane's Laos, yes, junta foreign ministry official was allowed to attend for the first time in 3 years, which many observers saw as a retreat some way, yes. The 2025 chair that was Malaysia under Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim, and who tried to take a more proactive role on Myanmar, but again with limited success. And yes, in some way, um, in Myanmar occurred a civil, in some way, civil war conflict. So military forces gained power, yes, and take control under the parliament and the government, and present prime minister of Myanmar, that who was elected on democratical elections, and started a junta regime that continues uh, until our day. Okay, and also several words about ASEAN. So it's also there are meetings that occurred and called ASEAN Plus that engaged China, US, Japan, Russia, India, and some other countries under ASEAN roof. And so in that way, they try to large cooperate with all forces that today presented in the world. Okay, so Shanghai Cooperation Organization, that's also, quite hard to speak so much time. Uh, okay, the Shanghai Five, it was founded on June 15, 2001, and origins go back to 1996 for settling borders disputes between China, Russia, and Central Asia. Um, the primary countries who were involved in this integration process were China, Russia, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, and Tajikistan uh, to settle border disputes left over from the collapse of the Soviet Union, and Uzbekistan also joined in 2001, and the group became Shanghai Cooperation Organization. So it evolved from Shanghai Five to Shanghai Cooperation Organization when Uzbekistan joined. So originally, Shanghai Cooperation Organization focused on security. It's fighting what it calls the three evils, meaning terrorism, separatism, and extremism. It set up the regional anti-terrorist structure. That acronym is REDS in 2004 in Tashkent, but over the years, CSO has grown both in size and ambitions, and in 2017, India and Pakistan become full members, bringing two old enemies in the same organization. So, step away from our topic, India and Pakistan is in the state of war, and some provocation occurred regularly on the borders. Some started the fire, or sometimes it's India, sometimes it's Pakistan, and also both countries are unofficial possessor of nuclear power, yes, nuclear military power, I mean. So in that way, it makes these countries mm, their conflicts that make dangerous. Okay, and in July 2023, Iran also joined as a nine members, and at the Astana summit on July 2024, Belarus becomes the 10th full member. And today, CSO cover about 42% of the world's population and includes nuclear armed states like China, Russia, India, and Pakistan. And mhm. Okay, so the structure of the CCO is the next is a council of head of states that meets once a year. A council of heads of governments. The secretariat is located in Beijing, and the RATS. It's I remind you, cooperation on security counterterrorism center is located in Tashkent. So you can see that all this institution located in different capitals, maybe for assuring some equality, but as you understand, players like China and Russia can't guarantee everyone equality in this union, but they try to cooperate. Also, if we are looking at BRICS, they have more interesting initiative. For example, BRICS Pay. It's a paying system that can replace Visa and MasterCard. Also, replacing this system, yes, paying systems, it's not just practice of Asia countries or Latin America countries, but that's also practice of European Union because they trying to establish digital euro, and it means that. They wanna full in that way they want to replace Visa and Mastercard because all these two payment systems developed and under the control of private entities that belongs to the United States, and in that way European Union wanted to ensure their um, political independency in all aspects of their existence. Also, a Tianjin summit, yes, that occurred on August 2025 and was signed Tianjin Declaration that called for a fair multipolar world order and condemned 2025 strikes against Iran as aggressive actions. Another interesting events that occurred in this organization is Modi and Xi Jinping meeting. So Modi, it's Prime Minister of India, and Xi Jinping is the head of Communist Party of China. And for the first time in 7 years, India Prime Minister Modi met Xi Jinping in China, and both pledged to step up cooperation against US tariff pressures. So, also remind you that China and India, old rivals, not just for calling himself itself hegemons in some way, but also they because of old disputes around borders, common borders that they possessed, and some meetings between these two leaders marks for some warming in their relationships. But again, this was like a consequence of Trump tariffs. So by they not coherent politics towards China and India, Trump pushed these two old enemies to cooperation against the United States. It's, I can say, just bravo. That's was maybe one of the most stupid geopolitical step in their career. So Arab League. We also discussed a lot about Arab League during our seminar sessions class, but it's no like remind one more time good for you. So Middle East and North Africa, it's the oldest regional organization that we discussed today because uh, it's date 1945. So also remind you that United Nations was founded. It's not funded. They signed a declaration in the same year. Yes, like former members of uh, what's happened with my memory. Um, uh, um, okay. I have some issues with my memory. Uh, just I should remind for myself. That's ah, uh, League of Nations. It's sorry. Sometimes I forget. So uh, so simple facts. Okay, so it was founded in 1945, and it's like yes, predating even the United Nations. It was founded a bit later. And it was founded by seven states: Egypt, Iraq, Saudi Arabia, Syria, Lebanon, and Jordan, or former Transjordan and Yemen. Over the decades, it grew up to 22 members, stretching from Mauritania on the Atlantic coast to Oman on the Arabian Sea, and including Comoros, Djibouti, and Somalia. And together, these countries have around 475 million people. In some way, it's equal to European Union, but the main difference is that population of countries of Arab leagues is growing, and population of European Union declining. The main purpose of the Arab leagues are to coordinate political, economic, cultural, and security cooperation among Arab states to defend Arab interests and especially to support the Palestinian cause. Yes, because Israel was established in year before, and for resolving the problem that occurred after establishing Israel is a problem for Arabic states. I remind you, they also launched this organization for diplomatic cooperation. And the league has a secretary general, so it's currently Ahmed Abul from Egypt, and a council where each member has one vote. But the league's decisions are not binding on members who do not vote for them, and most major issues, the Arab states are deeply divided. why they are so divided? Because different colonies impacted on their political systems, and so large geographical presentation also makes some interests evident interests for some country, not so evident for um, in other country. Yes, and okay, also we'll talk about readmission, but also that's not the first suspended of some members. Egypt also was suspended in 1979 after signing the peace treaty with Israel, and was readmitted in 1989. So I'll recall you that Israel and Egypt had a war. It's for Israel, it was a war for independence, and Israel occupied Sinai Peninsula for over 10 years. So Sharm el-Sheikh, in some way, for 10 years was part of Israel. As you visit Sharm el-Sheikh, it's to your currency was for 10 years part of Israel, and there are some buildings that left after Israel occupation. Also, some road was built, and after signing the treaty with Egypt, Israel left these territories, but Egypt should recognize an independence of Israel, and it was first Arab state that recognized independence of Israel. Today, uh, Arab Emirates also recognize independence of Israel. Jordan recognize, and other Arabic countries recognize an independence because it's um, because they integrate their cooperation in economy more and more, and it's profitable in some way to cooperate than um, to to have a war. And also Libya was suspended in 2011 during the civil war against Gaddafi. Syria was suspended in November 2011 because of the brutal repression of the Syrian uprising, and in uh, to 2024 they renewed membership of Syria after more than 12 years of suspension. Um, but due to a conflict that deruled in Israel, yes, so in, if to be more precisely, on the territory of Gaza Strip, so o- the first meeting on this response occurred on October 7, 2023, and it's joint Arab Islamic Summit in Riyadh in November 2023. Arab and Muslim leaders rejected the idea that Israel was acting in legitimate self-defense, and at the 33rd Arab League Summit in Manama, Bahrain, and on May 16, 2024, the Bahrain Declaration called for an immediate Israel withdrawal from Gaza, the deployment of an international peacekeeping force, and a two-state solution along the 1967 borders. So there was some negotiation between Israel and Palestinians or Gaza Strip about borders that should be divide Israel and Gaza, but no, not uh, mm, all parties of this conflict denied any signed negotiation, and in that way they They continued some military actions that occurred until nowadays. Yes. Okay, so I think that with we will move to African Union, and I'll propose just 5-7 minutes break for me first of all, yes, for recovering. So in 5-7 minutes, I will come back. Okay, let's continue our lecture. So, not so much information left. Okay, share my screen and okay, section about African Union. So, what we should know before African Union existed another organization of African Unity, and it was replaced on July 9 in 2002 and founded on the principles of African solution for African problems and new leaders that uh, today, yes, it's Mahmoud Ali Yusuf, who was elected on February 2025. Okay, so first of all, a brief history. Um, Organization of African Union Unity. It's was yes, like ancestor of African Union. Was founded since May 25, 1963, and was founded in Addis Ababa, that we today mentioned, the capital of Ethiopia. And the main purpose of this foundation was to support the liberation of Africa from colonial rule and apartheid. And by 2002, all African countries were independent and apartheid had ended. So the mission of Organization of African Union was completed, and the new union, African Union, was modeled uh, partly with some sites on the European Union, but of course, as I mentioned, cooperation and integration that achieved European Union, no other organization achieved yet. They have some kind of African continental free trade area that it's like the largest by membership, and 54 members of 55 members African Union joined this trade area. So the purpose of this trade area is to uh, cooperate and to develop a common market. It's important, especially for countries that are developing, and in some way they try to achieve some recognition, yes, from big players, and some kind of recognition of their market. And in cooperation, it's much easier achieve than they act by uh, they act as single players. Um and okay. Uh, Okay, it's more about problem, but also about good sides, yes, of this cooperation. So, the main strategic vision of the African Union is called Agenda 2063, that was adopted in 2015, and it's a 50-year plan to transform Africa into an integrated, prosperous, and peaceful continent by 2063, and the centenary of the organization African Unity. The most concrete economic project under Agenda 2063 is the African Continental Free Trade Area that I mentioned before, which began trading on January 1st, 2025. 21, sorry. The aim is to boost intra-African trade, and according to the Afrexim Bank, it's like General African Bank, intra-African trade reached only 192 billion dollars in 2023, equivalent to just 14 and 9% of all African trade. It's just grown by 3.2% yearly. It's not uh, mm, not large growing, yes, not big growing. And of course, we can say that for the so poor countries, that's um, not acceptable because they have this like horizons for growing. And also, fun fact, GDP. Who developed GDP? Хто розробив саме поняття ВВП? Ану, розкажіть мені, студенти вуза Кузнєця. Друзі, хто запровадив концепт ВВП? В університеті кого ви навчаєтеся? Ну, розкажіть мені. Друзі,
Та мене
алло.
Кузнець.
Ну, да, от він і розробив ВВП. Він вже коли емігрував в Америку, то там запровадив цей концепт, але це його винахід Семена Кузнєца. А, окей. Let's continue. So, the main issue for Africa it's some kind of coups, and since 2020, mostly in the Sahel regions, in countries like Mali, Burkina Faso, Guinea, Niger, and Gabon, have challenged African Union zero tolerance policy. So I remind you those that zero tolerance policy it's the policy that aims to prevent unconstitutional changes of government, and this policy suspended several countries from the union. It's Mali, Sudan, Burkina Faso, Guinea, Niger, and Gabon. Gabon was readmitted in 2025, but in some ways that's not stopped other coups in these countries. By the way, coups it's French word, coup d'état, державний переворот. Okay. In joining communique, so uh, of these countries uh, and under the influence of foreign powers betraying its founding principles, has reached its member states and its population, condemned its illegal, illegitimate, and inhumane and responsible sanctions. They form their own group, the Confederation of the Alliance of Sahel States. Yes, these countries where coup happened. And in Niamey on July 6, 2024, they withdraw from ECOWAS. Yes, it's another organization that cooperate African countries, and because of their policy that was opposed to zero tolerance to political changes, it's unconstitutional political changes. And I think that we told a lot about Africa. So let's talk about World Bank. It's, in my opinion, interesting organization. Yes. So the World Bank was founded in July 1944 at the Bretton Woods. And today it's a group of 5 institutions with 189 members. And as I mentioned, some countries, some organization provides weighted voting, and because the US hold 16% of the vote, it's granting unique veto power over major policy decisions. And why it was funded, mostly allies of the Second World War met to design a new economic system that would prevent another Great Depression and another World War. So, Great Depression's financial crisis that occurred overall in the United States and also covered Europe. And they created two institutions. It's International Monetary Fund, MVF in Ukrainian Международный валютный фонд, to keep international currencies stable, and the International Bank for Reconstruction and Develop to finance the rebuilding of Europe and Japan. And Bank of Reconstruction and Development opened for businesses in 1946, and its first loan happened in 1941 for over $250 million to France for post-war reconstruction. And the other decade, yes. Okay, that's a little just short information. Okay, over the decades, International Bank of Reconstruction and Development grew into a much larger family known as the World Bank Group, which today consists of five institutions: the IBRD, acronym of International Bank of Reconstruction and Development, founded in 1944, and lends to middle-income developing countries at near market interest rate. The International Development Association, EDA, founded in 1916, and gives grants and very low interest loans to the world's poorest countries. And the International Finance Cooperation, founded in 1956, lends to private companies in developing countries. The Multilateral Investment Guarantee Agency, MIGA, founded in 1988, gives insurance against political risks to investors who put money into developing countries. And the International Center for Settlement of Investment Disputes, founded in 1966, helps resolve legal disputes between investors and governments. The World Bank Group has 189 members countries, making it almost universal. And important point about the World Bank is how decisions are made. So, as I mentioned, voting power is in the hands of the United States, and in some way, the veto vote has United States. So it's the only and it's only member that voting share greater than 15%. And today, the missions of World Bank, you can see on the screen, it's to finance some climate changes, yes, to fight with climate changes, and to end extreme poverty and build shared prosperity on a livable planet. And this added by the new president Ajay Banga. It's Banga, Indian American businessman and former CEO of MasterCard, becomes the 14th president of the World Bank on June 2, 2023, replacing the controversial David Malpass. He was in some way controversial because some corruption risks, yes, and so on. And also he doubts some climate changes, and in that way he was controversial. And Banca has launched major reforms, sometimes called the Evolution Roadmap, to make the bank better, bigger, faster, and simpler. And he has changed to equity to loans ratio to free up about $30 billion more in lending capacity over a decade. And also he has committed the World Bank Group to deploy 45% of its annual financing to climate action by 2025. Okay, guys, I think that For today, that's all information that I wanted to share with you.